Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I'm bringing you a short one, a brief one. I won't be here for long. I just want to speak about the news today. It's a slow news day. Nothing much is happening besides the normal, politicking in Kenya. So I'll just mention this. As you can see, the topic. Like I say, I'm not gonna be here for long. Just a brief commentary here on what's happening. So if you're going to watch this on repeat or listen to this on repeat, whether you're on X or on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the good stuff. Anyway, European Union are now piling more pressure on Suluhu. They've gone ahead to ban Air Tanzania from, going to Europe basically, or accessing the European airspace. Okay, they are claiming that Air Tanzania does not meet their safety standards. But of course, we know, if you understand the politics behind this, this is just a way of the EU trying to pressure Suluhu's government to resign or to, just crumble down and concede in the Western agenda. Okay, I told you this started with human rights nonsense with Boniface Mwangi, Martha Karua, and all the commercial activists from Kenya that were making that trip to Tanzania. And after they were, Suluhu actually denied them access, and they had to come back. And people like Boniface Mwangi faked that whole story about being detained, sexually assaulted, and all those homoerotic fantasies that Mwangi has. It is quite clear. I told you guys that if you look at it, for an average Joe, you can look at it and say, you know what, Suluhu is this Idi Amin, she's a brutal dictator, whatever, she needs to go. But if you look deeper, you'll understand that Suluhu's steps to align herself with the Pan-Africanist, the Botswana, Burkina Faso, and this newfound neo-Pan-African movement that is taking over Africa. The whole idea of Africa being independent of Europe economically. Okay, that's what's happening right now. So I told you last year, the biggest, some would say mistake, but I would say the biggest step that Suluhu took that caught the attention of the West is when she decided to move away from the dollar. Thank you so much, Gypsy Con. I see you. Please make sure you hit that like button. Thank you. Nice seeing you. So, like I said, that move to dump the dollar and stop using the US dollar as the currency, or pinging their Tanzanian shillings to the dollar, that is what incensed the West. Okay, so they were looking for ways in which they can pile pressure. They can have a soft coup to take out Suluhu, and they started it by using their most trusted, loyal, paid, so-called human rights activists in Kenya, by using this issue of Tindulusu to blow it out of proportion, make it seem like Suluhu is this brutal dictator. That's what they're using to demonize her. Because remember, always before they remove you from power, they have to demonize you. They have to run a propaganda machine campaign, robust, aggressive campaign against you, to paint you as this maniacal, psychopathic dictator. And that's what they're doing right now. And they're using these paid commercial activists, especially majority of them from Kenya and also Tanzania. I mean, Agatha, whatever her name is, she's a lawyer and also a journalist. I mean, why can't she concentrate and make more stories about Museveni, who has been committing atrocities since I don't know what, 80 something, 88 or something? why she all of a sudden teamed up with Boniface Mwangi, Martha Karua, and that former Chief Justice of Kenya, who is in the payroll of the West. These NGOs, Western NGOs, George Soros, non-governmental organization. Why did she join them? To make it about Suluhu, Sumia. Just like I mentioned, if you listen to Boniface Mwangi's, you know, story and Agatha, as they were telling the story, they made sure that they had to invoke Sumia Suluhu's name. They were just not. It was never going to be enough if they just talk about how they got tortured by some unnamed, some Tanzanian official. They had to make sure that their story linked whatever happened, what supposedly happened, to Sumia Suluhu, to play into the emotions of anybody who would dare give them at the time of the day. So now we see that the EU is they're trying to make it a multifaceted attack on Suluhu, while they sponsor this cartoonists, this crisis actors, this fake human rights activist to make headlines and pay the Githeri media using the BBC as a mouthpiece. We already know that BBC is a propaganda machine. I mean, if you don't know that by now, I mean, please, you must be living under a rock. So they're using BBC Africa. They're using the, journalists that they pay, and putting light into these fake stories by Boniface Mwangi and Agatha, talking about nonsensical stuff. Okay, the aim is to paint Suluhu as the bad guy, and now you see, while they're doing that, because the aim of doing that is to try to get the local Eastern African region civilians, the people, the majority of people, to have a different view about Suluhu. And also they'll try to persuade, the people in Tanzania who might be feeling some type of way about Suluhu, to try to turn against our political enemies, to give them more ammunition. As you know, the elections is in October, the presidential election in Tanzania. So while they're working on, trying to persuade or sway the public opinion on Suluhu, the EU has kind of started a soft version of sanctions. It's a type of sanctions, okay? Because all of a sudden they're claiming that Air Tanzania is not does not meet the safety standards, EU safety standards, okay? And very soon they'll go to other aspects of the Tanzanian economy that is connected to the West, and try to, just to cripple that kind of trade that exists, just to punish Suluhu's administration for the fact that Suluhu is looking at moving away from Western dependence, moving away from using Western currency. That is the aim here. And again, you might be asking yourself as a Kenyan, what has this have to do with Kenya? I tell you, it has everything to do with Kenya, because you can clearly see how these busybodies, the most trusted loyalists, these intellectual prostitutes, actually they're not even intellectuals, they're a bunch of just bored, no talent having ass idiots like Boniface Mwangi and Martha Karua, who are ganging up and trying to work hand in hand with social media influencers who are propped up by NIS and Githeri media to paint Sumia Suluhu as the bad guy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's happening to Suluhu at this point. You'll see they will ramp up more attacks on Suluhu. You'll see they'll make up stuff this coming weeks. Boniface Mwangi will not be sitting idle. He'll come up with another story, or he got hijacked or whatever. He got something happened to him, and he'll be flown to Tanzania for some bullshit story, and then they'll have a mega huge press conference. Or Martha Karua will start with her shenanigans trying to present a case in East African courts. Actually, I'm looking forward for them to go to the court, East African court, to table uh, uh, any accusation against this Suluhu regime, because that will be a perfect opportunity for the Suluhu administration to actually ridicule and blow this fake story about Boniface Mwangi's torture out of the water, expose them for what they are. Okay, so anyway, that's the only thing I wanted to talk about here today, because I see in Kenya there's nothing much happening. It's mostly the usual nonsensical stuff with Kihika making some silly statements talking about she had to go to America to give birth because she didn't want to expose her body or nakedness to the doctors and all this medical workers because she's their boss. I mean, what kind of stupidity is this? But that's a story for another day. It's not something worth exploring. It's just an example of how these politicians think of the Kenyan population. They think you're stupid. They think Kenyans are really stupid and can't think and can't stand up for themselves. Okay? I mean, if you're going to take more 10 years of this nonsense, or 5 years, or even 6 months of this kind of shithousery by these so-called politicians, especially people like Kihika, Sakaja, Ruto himself, Raila, Gachagua. I mean, these people really think they are dealing with, animals. They don't see they don't see Kenyans as humans. They don't treat or talk to Kenyans as if Kenyans deserve any dignity, as if Kenyans have brains. They talk down on the very people that they're supposed to represent, the people that they work for. I mean, for Kihika to say what she said about that, if I was in the crowd, she should have been stoned and not live there without any, I mean, this is stupidity. But anyway, I'll speak more on that and other stuff that's happening in Kenya as we approach June 25th. I told you between now and August, there'll be a lot of NIS choreographed psyops activities, fake drama, whether it's Jerry, or it's Boniface Mwangi, or it's Gachagua with his nonsense, or the normal tribal nonsense that you see on X Spaces and social media. People going back and forth depending on who. You saw the Nani, what's his name? That idiot that works for ODM, who went to Bunge la Wananchi when he was booed down when he was trying to bring all this tribal nonsense. So you can see that the government is working overtime. And the whole Natembea nonsense that's going on in Trans Nzoia, okay? These are supposed to actually, hijack your attention from what we need to talk about. But anyway, guys, I will keep it brief today because I am in the middle of something. So we'll continue to have these discussions in my next live. So make sure that you subscribe, like, share, comment, and put the notification button on so every time I come in, you can always find me here. All the other stuff is just nonsense. I mean, talking about 2027, 2026 is not worth talking about. I told you the game is already rigged. It's just a matter of people playing this, the role of Gachagua and the so-called opposition is to try to entertain the masses or make the masses forget about the problems we are facing at hand. Okay, the level of looting that is taking place in Kenya, the level of extrajudicial killings, criminal activities by the government and government officials and our representatives. Okay, the money they've stolen, the human rights abuse that's happening in Kenya, our taxes, how they're looting and using us through the SHA and all this stuff. The Gachagua's pronouncements of one time and this bullshit that they come up with. It's a bunch of nonsense. These guys are just trying to shift your focus from trying to remove Ruto now because they understand that if you remove Ruto now, that they'll be next and they'll have nothing to stand on. So at least now they can try to pretend and play this Kikuyus versus Luos, Nyanza versus Central, Wamunyoro versus Ruto, the ODM attacking Gachagua. It's a bunch of nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. These people are doing these things just to make you forget about the kind of atrocities and criminal negligence, criminal activity, criminal acts that they've committed against Kenyan people. That is their aim. That is why they're playing these games. We keep on having all these stupid activities, whether it's Boniface Mwangi, tomorrow it's Gachagua, tomorrow it's Raila, then Ruto will come up with some bullshit. It's bullshit morning through evening because they don't want you to focus on removing the regime and the whole political class that this regime represents. That is the aim of all this usarakasi suckers from day and night. That's why people like Boniface Mwangi should be stoned to death when they come out in public and telling us about their homoerotic fantasies. We should not entertain these people. I don't care what they think, who is giving them money. We should not, as Kenyans, entertain this nonsense. Let Tanzania take care of Sumia, okay? Our problem is the political class in Kenya, being represented by Ruto, Gachagua, Raila, Natembea, and all these useless people, not worrying about Sumia and our human rights in Neo. If you are about to worry about human rights in Neo, then let's start with our own country, okay? Matiangi shot people, dumped bodies on River Yala. Where was Boniface Mwangi? Why didn't he tell us about his stories about how he was tortured by Matiangi? These are the kind of nonsense that actually make me really mad, how we pretend and act like, everything is okay in Kenya. Ruto has to go. Not only Ruto, but the whole political class, starting from Ruto, Raila, Gachagua, Uhuru, and the rest, Karua, Wamalwa, and all these busybodies. They are all supposed to be in jail committee to be hanged to death, not to entertain every day in the very media, talking about their nonsensical speech and their bullshit speeches about how they want to change this country. These people have been in government since 1921. There's nothing that they've done for the Kenyan people, but playing around, looting our money, looting our resources while they bend over for the Western, their Western slave masters. We should not entertain this thing. Anyway, guys, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but I will talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings. Subscribe, share, like, comment, and do all the good stuff. I'll talk to you later. Peace.